So I'm curious, the workshop, the overall theme of the workshop is intimacy and what else? I'm not because I saw your Instagram post and I even saw your Facebook post. I'm just curious if you can say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Irene, do you wanna? I'm happy to tag team with you here.
Yeah, let's try this. Intimacy and relationships and communication.
Mm.
Um, can I keep saying more about it? And post COVID, I know we're technically not post, but we are. Like I'm calling it, I'm naming it. Post COVID, then the relationships we saw were really, really critical, right? Who we are within ourselves, how we act, you know, both our shortcomings and our gifts, and then showing up with someone else for others and how to communicate better. Um, and then the fun part, the juicy part, is I really want that this is co ed. It's like in this day and age, right? In this day and age, I'm like, where mean and ugly is not what we want. Men don't, we don't have, we're aware that we don't have to wear a mask. And men have the hardest time as well with that. And so we have an intimate setting where we're creating this safe container where I say we're going to practice. It's only 16 weeks that we'll do this on a weekly basis. And that is a very strong basis,
Okay.
right? Strong basis for change, for improvement, for going deeper. I'll pause there so you can continue, Farishta.
Yeah, I love that. That's so beautiful. I'm like, we need to type some of that down. But yeah, we called it braving intimacy because when I look at the work I do with my clients, um, the majority of their issues, their conflicts, are coming from the fact that they're not being their true selves. Right? So something happens, this person's upset, they don't say anything, they suppress it. This person feels it, they don't say anything. And all of a sudden, you've just got inauthentic relationships happening all over the place. And then something blows up because everyone's been suppressing really significant feelings. And the opposite of that in my work is like, what's on your heart? What does your heart want to say to this person? Now dig up the courage and say it in the kindest, most honest way possible. Because then there's a chance for this other person to respond to those needs, to that um, awareness. And without it, like you're not even giving people a chance, right? So braving intimacy is the core of the work I do. When we started talking about it, it's like, oh, you have a need? Okay, now name it. Now tell your partner. Now feel the risk of sharing that and maybe not getting the need met, but doing it anyway. So it's really braving communication, and that's where trust is built. That's what I've noticed when couples have been able to actually say the thing they've been holding back. Love blooms, trust builds, intimacy definitely builds. And it's scary. It's a huge risk. The existential vulnerability of loving and being loved really requires honesty. So when we spoke about how do we teach this with Irene's, 30 plus years as a therapist, with my time with shadow work and relationship coaching, how do we bring what we both know together in a really rich way so that people can practice? And we talked about, is this a women's group, right? The traditional, like, are we holding women? And I think we both agreed, like, there's going to be women who have struggles around men and men who have struggles around women, and maybe they should be in the pot together to practice so that there's no, um, I don't know what the right word is, but like inauthentic container. Like, that's not going to be real life, right? That they only share their vulnerability with the same gender, so to speak.
So this isn't necessarily for couples only. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Anyone who's ready and wanting to be partnered and needs those skills, anyone who is partnered and going like, why the hell do we keep having these same issues? Anyone who's even recently divorced, who's like, what is it I really want moving forward? And couples, I think, how do we do this better? Even if one partner shows up, it shifts the paradigm of the relationship.
Sure.
They're modeling something different.
Right.
And I was gonna say, hey, and I'm single for now. And what is this dance? I can do the intimacy part with my girlfriends, right? It's like with deep, like with this caring relationship, like Fetish does. Like, oh, you show up, you don't have an issue with intimacy, but somehow I do. And so let's figure this out. And there's nothing more powerful than doing it together in group and then in a safe space. And then, it's pretty cool because then I get to be with my really, really dear friend. You're a bestie, if there's like, and showing up with courage. I think that's my word this year. I need to keep showing up with courage because there's areas in my life where I had not been showing up with courage. It's like, just be courageous. And then we grow from there. So I'm excited, whether single, this is for everyone, right? And I think some people also want to be honest with themselves. It's not always been the practice when we're so much in the gadgets and external stimuli. We don't necessarily get to have time in with ourselves to really, that's where the juicy part is. Because if you're talking about, like you said, fetish style, being authentic, well, we first have to start with here within and go and work through that before we can really show up in a respectful and loving and a compassionate way. It's like, so, bringing in Brene Brown's wholeheartedness and the interpersonal neurobiology piece of like Daniel Siegel and really what I called that's why I call my work integrated therapy. It's like we're all aspects of ourselves are showing up because I'm great at 10 a.m., not so great at 10 p.m. So how do I do that tango? Anywho.
Yeah. Heidi, is any of this like landing for you? Is there anything that like sparks a conversation?
Yeah, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking to myself, yes, and I'm also aware that, because I've been in a couple partnerships, and if the person who is willing to be intimate and can be intimate and has done that work, so in other words, in order for anyone to be in a place to be intimate with another person, they have to have that relationship with themselves. They have to be in a place where they are intimate with themselves. And that's not just sexual, that's not just self-pleasure, that's everything. Because I think the mindset for many people when they hear the word intimacy, they just think sex. And I'm like, I'm like, no, because it's so much more than that. It's deeper and richer than that. And yeah, and so and I'm just, it's interesting listening to you both, um and so I'm remaining open and curious. Let me just say that. Yeah.
I'll just say I appreciate that. Thanks, Heidi.
Yeah.